So with that, I wanted to thank our guest, Michael Sweetney, for joining us. Everybody is adjusting to the new realities and the new norms of life. So many things have been impacted. I know I was just speaking with Mike earlier about some of the things that he would have been doing right now. He was actually supposed to be in Florida doing a basketball program. So for the holidays, and obviously that was for naught, not happening, and everybody is truly adjusting. So Mike, thank you so much for being with us. First and foremost, how are you? How's the family? How's everybody? All things considering.
Thanks for having me. Everything is holding up pretty good. We're, kids are, doing homeschool on the computer. Family so far is mentally holding up well, and we're all healthy, most importantly. So just trying to stay healthy and keep the kids entertained and, keep pushing and hoping this thing and, go away soon so everybody can get back to the normal or get back to the new normal.
New normal, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, and I'm certain that most people do know, and from the feedback that I've gotten from the little time that this has been posted, because again, I want to thank you for accommodating me so quickly on the timing and getting this in today before the holiday of Passover continues later this week and all the other holidays. So I really appreciate you squeezing this in so quickly and not allowing us enough lead time to really promote this. But even with that little lead time, we've been getting such great feedback. And people have been telling us that they know you, they've been following you for not only your career, but post NBA and a lot of the things that you've been doing of late. And for those that may not know, I guess, why don't you tell us a little bit about your basketball life, how it started, and just some basic overview.
Just some simple. I started playing basketball at 9 years old. My father introduced me to the game of basketball. I started playing Boys and Girls Club in Oxon Hill, Maryland, Washington D.C. area. Just started playing basketball as a kid. Went to Oxon Hill High School, public school. Played basketball 4 years there. I was
basic overview. Oh, go on.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, I got you. So just pretty much played basketball my 4 years at Oxon Hill High School. Something different that people don't know. I verbally committed to Georgetown my sophomore year in high school. A lot of people don't know that. It's kind of unheard of. People commit that early. So I committed to Georgetown early. So I kind of knew my college career path young. So went on to Georgetown and started over there. Was All-American and was able to work myself to be the ninth pick of the 2003 NBA draft, same one as LeBron and Dwyane Wade. I was the ninth pick of that draft. So had a quite a bit, good basketball journey, like a lot of fun, and played some years overseas also.
Right. No, that's great. And
Yeah.
there's no question that you had a tremendous college career. I've seen some of the Georgetown alum and people they are still in love with you, as they should be. So you truly had an impact over there. I guess my question really, and so many people have asked me, and I myself was curious, when did you realize you loved the game of basketball? When did that turn for you, and when did you realize that you actually had some real talent and you can go more than just the normal high school or college sports?
I didn't really start actually so funny because my father introduced me to the game. It was more so me just doing it to stay out of trouble and just kid exercise. I hated basketball when I first did it. But I didn't like it at all. I didn't want to go to practices because I wasn't, didn't get a lot of playing time when I first started playing. It was kind of like, first couple of teams was at the bench. So it wasn't fun for me at the time. And I really didn't start liking it, like really falling in love with it until like maybe like middle school, like 8th grade. I went to a tournament in Florida and like out of nowhere, I just like averaged 20 points and I started feeling good about myself. And then that's where things just started to turn once I started playing more and started, producing more. And that's where it just kind of like had a huge change in love for the game.
So I know that your father had a tremendous impact on you, as you've said, and I've read, personally from speaking with you. But how does a kid your age and just your stage of life, how do you develop that kind of a commitment, that kind of a discipline to really, especially if you're saying that you didn't love it and you didn't start out just, on day one, how do you develop the strength and the commitment to something like that, to just keep training and going at it?
I think it was like my upbringing off the court. My father was a very hard worker. He worked 6, 7 days a week sometimes. And I will never forget, like, Saturday mornings, most kids are able to sleep in. And my father on the weekends, he had like a side business where he would like, work on yards and do landscaping and stuff like that. So, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning, he's waking me up to do work with him. And I used to work so hard, so hard just working with him, like, cutting grass, mulching, and you name it. And so that continued like throughout my childhood. So I kind of developed, hard work. And I saw what hard work did. Like, if you work hard, results come. And so I kind of transferred something that I had in real life over to basketball. And, like I said before, when I first started, I wasn't playing a lot, wasn't producing a lot, but I kept continuously working on my game, practicing, doing the things that made me born, but it was just, repetition. And once I saw, progress, and I just continued, going at it.
And so when was it that you realized that you have a real talent and a real skill, and thoughts of, actually going professional and NBA? Was that even something that you were on track to do? At what point in life did you realize that you can really do this?
So my sophomore year in high school, I was in a game, and John Thompson, legendary coach, he came into the gym at one of my high school games. So I'm like asking people, like, what is he here for? And nobody, like, I don't know. So at that time I wasn't ranked, it was not. So I didn't know what he was there for. And after the game, my father said he was there for you, and they want us to come down to the school for a meeting. So I was like, whoa, okay, this is real. Went down for the meeting, and they told me they wanted me to go to Georgetown. They felt like I would be a pro if I came there, and I believed all the stuff. And had Patrick, you and those guys, like, hey, come to Georgetown. So you hearing, as a 10th grader, hearing, Patrick Ewing, he was at those, that's with him, he was with those Knicks days, and he was, the guy. So him telling you to come to his alma mater and you think I can make it, I think that was a confidence building, a life-changing moment.
So you had tremendous success in Georgetown. And if you're talking about Patrick Ewing, then being drafted by the Knicks, tell us about that. Were they the dream of yours? Was that really your preference? And what was the thought process as you were waiting to hear your name get called, actually?
All right, so it's funny. So now I tell a story now that I'm older now. I don't have to be politically correct. I can just speak my mind. But so obviously the Knicks situation, what happened was going into the draft, Washington was picking 10. And they told me, hey, if you're there at 10, we're taking you. And so when the 8th pick came, I don't know who it was, but they picked 8, the Knicks picked 9. So when the 8th pick came, they took somebody. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm going home. Because I had a meeting with the Knicks, like the morning of the draft. Never worked out for them. They never said they were interested, no nothing. So I'm like, oh, good. I'm like excited. I'm going home, play for the Wizards. So right before the Knicks are getting ready to call the name, I'm like, I don't know what they're going to pick. So my agent's phone rang. He says, hey, the Knicks are taking you, act surprised, be excited, but this is the draft. So I'm like, wow, my dream is coming true, but I'm kind of upset because I did not want to be with the Knicks, because I just knew, I kind of knew how the organization was, and I knew they had so many people in my position already. So I was just like, why are they picking me? But, it's a dream coming true. So it was a lot of mixed emotions at that point. But it was a crazy scenario. But they called my name, I acted surprised, and I was so excited, but I had so many emotions. So just seeing my parents smiling and crying kind of made everything all okay for me, though.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That I've never heard before. I've heard you so many times, and I tell you, and I tell everybody that asks.
Yeah.
I keep being inspired. I keep
that's a true
learning
story.
more. This one I've never heard. So
thank
you for
that's
sharing.
A true story.
That's great. That's an amazing feeling. And I guess it's a bittersweet feeling, just leaving the college, a place that adored you and you were adored, and going in, being drafted into the NBA, the big city. Clearly, before the season even got underway, your father passed away, and certainly I never got to know him, but you've spoken so fondly of him. Clearly, it had an impact on your life. What, I guess, take us through that time, and again, I say this, with all respect, and part of why I just wanted to pause and let people know, part of why I do this, and part of why I'm so grateful to you and to the others that have joined us recently. Part of why I'm doing this is because I really want to take people who are otherwise just mired in the pressures and the stress and the anxiety of what's going on right now, and either take their mind off of it through some entertainment, or having people that can join us and talk about things that will give us inspiration and motivational. And clearly at this point, in your career, when you're about to start in the NBA, just take us through what happened and how that had an impact and where that went from there.
So yeah, like you said, right before the season started, I got a phone call that my father had passed away from a massive heart attack. Just like gone suddenly from me. And my father was like like you said, my best friend, person I relied on to talk to, and that was just immediately just taken from me. And literally had the funeral, buried my father, and then I had to start training camp like a couple of days later. And I didn't really have time to process everything that was going on. It's the loss of him and everything. So I try to use basketball as my outlet. That's what it's always been. Basketball is always that, sanctuary where you can go out there, you can just release everything, your frustrations, and just kind of just be. And so I went into training camp doing it. Went into training camp and I played very, very well. I kind of destroyed it. And people, some of my teammates and other people thought that I would be the starter. That's how well I played. And for my coach, at that time, to tell me that, hey, pulled me to meet right before the season started and said, hey, you're not going to play. And I'm like, wow, like, okay, where's this coming from? He's like, well, you're a rookie, you got to pay your dues. So you just got to sit and watch. So not only that I wasn't not playing, but I was in the suit behind the bench. And that was like one of the hardest adjustments from, coming from being a star in Georgetown, starting high school, actually in the summer league, going into the NBA, with the NBA players kind of go play, I averaged, 20 points. So I felt like, I deserved it. And it was like just for no, now I'm old and I realize and I know the reason why that happened. But at the time I didn't understand it. And it was just me just sitting on the bench through all these years, just watching LeBron and Dwyane Wade, those guys, their careers are like taking off. And I'm just sitting on the bench. Guys like, why are you not playing? So I had to deal with that all the time. And I really had no excuse, no reason to give. I'm just like, I really don't know. So on top of, that, part of basketball not being, so then basketball became not being fun anymore. I hated going to work. I hated going to practice. I hated going to games because it just wasn't fun. And so I had that. So there was no outlet. So I get lost in my father. So when I'm going home to just, this depression and the sadness and the loneliness. And then, work not being well. So I had nowhere to really turn where it can get have a peace of mind. And eventually, it ran its course because I didn't say anything to anybody. I kept it quiet because I felt like at the time I would feel like I was weak or, or whatever they would call you. As an athlete, you're taught to be macho and strong and fight through things. And at that time, I was just weak. I couldn't handle it anymore. And I got to a point where I tried to take my life twice while I was playing in the league. Tried to take pills and ended it all because it got the best of me. And it was probably some of the darkest moments of my life.
Yeah. Every time I hear you say that, and every time I try to relive it with you, chills. And I don't know how somebody moves past something like that, a situation where, you're at the height of the world, billboards, fanfare and just fame, and to pretty much losing the person that inspired you to get to where you were. And then to be put into a situation where, was really, not as fulfilling without, your support staff of your father, and to be put into an environment where you have to endure some kind of an organization that is not recognizing your talents. Clearly, to be put into the same draft as a LeBron and a D Wade and a Bosh and Melo, I mean, you had the talent, and from there, your career ended, more abruptly than certainly you deserved. You played in the NBA and abroad. I guess tell us, where was your mindset after? Where was your mindset when you knew that it was time to just end the basketball career and put the ball away?
My mindset, I thought for a second it was going to be a peace of mind. And I was like, okay, maybe for me, because I stepped away. I kind of like literally after my 4 years, I kind of told my agent at the time, like, hey, I can't accept any more contracts. Like, I'm walking away from the game. And people thought I was crazy. I was like, look, I kind of told them what was going on in my life, that this was going on. I tried to take my life twice. I need help. So during that time, I felt like, okay, maybe this is, a start for me to like try to get myself back together. And for those first 4 years, it was rough. I went from, leaving my family, not stranded, but just packing up, leaving my house, sleeping in parking garages and, parks, wherever it can be for like months, because I couldn't face the world, couldn't face everywhere I went. People, asked me what happened to my career. I felt like a failure. So it kind of got worse as I first stepped away from the game. And it kind of took its toll on me a lot. And eventually, when I found out that my wife was pregnant with my first son, that's when I knew a change had to be made. I'm like, there's no way I can be this guy's father. Obviously, my father had a big impact on my life, and I knew what this kid would need it. And that's when I knew I had to make a change, and I had to try to, spiritually have my breakthrough and kind of, figure things out and get my life back in order.
So I'm assuming the fact that you were a success in college and you went to the NBA, you were able to retire from your career with a massive wealth and fortune. I mean, were you talking about big money? Or the truth is, I know that's not the case. You were really, starting with nothing and even beyond that. And so what was it that, I know that your wife announcing, that she was expecting, what clicked in the mind, and how did you go from, spiraling, a life spiraling out of control where you were alone and you couldn't catch your grip as to reality and moving forward? How did you do that? How literally were you able to just turn it on or take the steps to, begin a new life?
It was funny you say that, because I know it sounds cliche, but like once I heard those words, something in me just switched. Like, you got to get it. And I kind of got that push. I don't know if it was, the spirit of my father pushing me or what it was, but something clicked that I have to turn things around for this kid. And that's when I knew I had to keep pushing. And, I went away I took a job in South America, and I went down there. And once I was down there, I kind of like met with somebody down there that kind of helped me have my spiritual breakthrough. And I kind of released everything I was going through with my basketball career. I finally accepted my father's death at that point. And after, 2003, so it probably took me about 7 or 8 years for me to accept my father's death, accept that he was gone. So once I, accepted his death, accepted that, okay, Michael Sweetney, the 9th pick of the NBA draft, New York Knicks, people call it a bust, whatever you want to call me, I had to accept and eat all that and say, you know what, it's time to take a new turn in life and be a father and kind of go from there and find out my next journey. And it still took me some time to figure out my next journey after that. But I knew mentally I had to make sure myself was okay.
So who would you say were, so you mentioned a spiritual adjustment and just a mindset that changed mentally. Were there people as you were changing who were instrumental and gave you that support and maybe some opportunities to get out of where you were and try to reinvent yourself?
Definitely close family and friends. Once they realized, what was going on, a lot of people didn't know what was going on. I hit it. I was a professional master. I would be the person that you saw me in person. I'm smiling, I'm laughing, I'm joking, like everything's fine. But behind closed doors, I was a wreck. So I became a professional master, like I was okay, but I wasn't. So once people knew what was going on in my life, people kind of rallied around me, and like I said, close friends and family helped me. Tamir Goodman is a person that I really give a lot of credit to, because he's a person that I don't think he really knew at the time, but he was one of the people that always checked on me, always just send me messages and inspirational. I'm sure you met Tamir. He's very, inspirational and very just a good spiritual person. He would just do things. And I'm like, hey, why is he doing it? Because at the time, everybody pulled at me, wanted something from me, instead of somebody saying, hey, I'm going to invest in you and your spirituality and your health and your wellness and stuff like that. So he's one of the people I do, give credit to him. Like I say, him, close family and friends, like, definitely reached out.
That's amazing. And there's no question about it. And I would say that in of itself, as you're saying that, I think that's a great way to just transition into the fact that you went from somebody who started to give. You literally, I know that you teamed up with so many people, including Tamir Goodman, and at least part of how I started to hear about you and learn about you post NBA was the fact that you went to Israel and you were helping Tamir with his sports camp. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and what kind of an experience that was for you? Were you ever in Israel? What just walk us through that whole how it went about.
So real quick, so Tamir is pretty much the person really why I'm, in doing things in the Jewish community. He was a person that kind of, vouched for me, sending me to, I guess his Camp Vermont in the Poconos. When he finally moved to Israel, he asked me, can I run it for him? And once I ran it for him, obviously word of mouth started to happen. And that's how I kind of got in, as far as being able to coach in Jewish schools and Jewish community. And so this past summer, he invited me to Israel. And I had just moved to the New Jersey area, actually, so that happened. But when I was out there in Israel with him, it was like this probably one of the best places I've ever been. I've been to a lot of resorts and places, but Israel was like very different, very spiritual. Just like the presence of everything there. Like I said, visiting the Holy Wall and everything like that. It was like life changing for me. And so, I learned so much about, just the people there in Jerusalem. And then, like you said, when I first went there, I was nervous, didn't know what to expect. You watch stuff on TV, you think, not being whatever, you think you always gonna be a bomb being over at any moment. And until you get over there, one of the most peaceful places in the world. I'm watching kids outside at 10, 11 o'clock at night playing in a park by themselves with no parents. And I'm like, wow, like I can't do that here in the States, but they're doing that over there. So it's like, what is really dangerous place? So it was just one of those places where it was just peaceful, life-changing, meeting great people, spiritual. And that's when Tamir knew I was back in New York. He made a call to Coach Harold Katz, his high school coach, and he put in a call to Coach Steinitz at YU, and also Ellie Katz at Ramaz. And he said, hey, Mike is living in the New York area. Would you guys be interested in, him coming in? And really within a couple minutes, both of them said yes. And I was like, wow, okay. So that's how I was able, to pretty much transition from, the guy that was in Maryland to being up here and, coaching schools. And that was my transition. And that's how Israel kind of changed my life, really.
It's amazing. Well, clearly you're surrounding yourself with very special, very amazing people with Tamir and Elliot Steinmetz. These are people that are pillars of our community and doing amazing things on and off the court. And the same thing with you. I mean, I know personally firsthand from so many people within the Jewish community, outside the Jewish community, that you've been mentoring, you've been coaching them on the court, off the court, often for no money even, when they should be paying you twice as much as what anybody deserves, because you're truly mentoring them with not only basketball skills, but just whatever needs to be done in their own personal life. And I guess the question here is, first of all, I guess talk about the amazing year that you had at the Yeshiva University with the Maccabees, and how the season ended, and same thing, just the mindset of not being able to complete what you started out with, and how do you move past that?
My season with YU was probably amazing to be around, to say the least. I never said this, so I don't know if coaches are going to watch him, but so when I first, I guess one of my first couple of practices there, that's when this is when I knew the team was very special. When I watched them play and I watched the leadership and I watched how everybody held everybody accountable, and coach would kind of say his little piece of what he thinks should be, X's and O's, and he would kind of go down the line and ask coaches what should they, what they think. And by the time it came to me, I literally had nothing to say. So for the whole season, they thought I was just quiet. But that's how much that's how special that team was. It wasn't really much you can say. Like it was kind of like this thing. They was just kind of on cruise control. Like the guys knew what to do. They knew how to hold each other accountable. Once Coach Elliott gave what he wanted to do, they did it. It was never him having to discipline the guys. Like it was just amazing to watch. And that's when I kind of knew that team was special. That it would be a special season. So I felt really horrible the way it ended for the guys, because they deserved it. And I always told people, I said, to me, I don't know, I thought we was gonna win it all. Not just because, I'm part of the team, you're supposed to say that, but I really believed that this team was gonna win it all, because they was just so confident, on such a roll. Everybody's for each other. And that's the thing that blew my mind. I've never been a part of that before, where guys from 1 through 16, coaches, everybody felt like they were on the same level. There was no anger, none of that. Guys weren't mad about playing time. It was just like, how can we win and get this done? And it was just a special group to be a part of. So that's why I felt bad that those guys couldn't have an ending that they deserved, the way it happened. But obviously, when things happen in the world, you can't control, it's out of your control. But I really wish they could have gave their own ending, which I know would have been a good one. But it's still a good one, but a better one.
Right, no question about it. I know that they're anxious, and the funny thing is, Coach Elliott Simons credits so much of the success of the team to the players and the coaching staff, everyone besides for him, and you're crediting him, and clearly it's a culture that took a long time to cultivate, and you are a big part of any kind of a culture in terms of just now that I know that for the last few years you've been a big advocate for mental health, and why don't you talk about that, how you got into it, and what kind of an impact you hope you can make to people who are suffering with some of the same illnesses that you've seen or gone through.
So how I got into it is very interesting. I don't know if a lot of people know this. So what happened was back in 2015, a guy from the New York Post, Mark Berman, he's a very he's been around for a long time. He's a very great writer, and he was actually, can he do a story on me? I said sure. And he was starting to use the word, he was like, hey, I know that people think you're a bust, and because that's when you Google my name, all you see is draft bust or overweight jokes, whatever it could be. You've seen all that. And I said, man, at this point, I'm tired of people writing my story saying what it should be. I'm just going to tell the truth. But at the time, I was still nervous from saying what it was. And I kind of just told him, I said, hey, look, this is what happened. Like, it wasn't about me being lazy. It wasn't about me being a bust. Things didn't pan out. I get it. But, I was, at the loss of my father, I was going through depression. This is what was going on in my life. This is what I tried. I tried to, take my life twice. I just wasn't in the right headspace to play basketball, be a professional at that time. So I just said, at this point, I'm just going to say it, and whatever happens, happens. And it kind of like went viral. And I got so much feedback from this, professional athletes, college guys telling me their testimonies. I'm like, wow. So I wasn't alone going through this. And that's how I kind of got started. I realized that, me telling my story, it was starting to change lives. People started to open up. And I kind of it was just like, for me, I got more, I tell people now, I have more peace at doing this and more happy at, telling my story, longer if I get a text message from somebody say, hey, thank you for your story, changed my life, saved my life. That gives me more satisfaction right now than I was playing in the NBA. So for me, just, being able to share, and if I can just reach one person in a crowd and just change their life, that's the goal. And my goal, honestly, is to be the biggest mental health advocate there is. And that's what I'm pushing for all ideas.
I mean, your words are so inspirational, and I know it to be true because I've seen it firsthand. I've heard from others, and really you are an inspiration, and you are impacting the lives of so many people on the court, off the court. I keep saying that, on the court and off the court. And so many people are blessed because of you, and you've been, and they say, God does everything for a reason. And to me, just to contrast with what's going on today in the world, I mean, nobody could fathom, nobody could understand why things are happening and the way things will change as a result of this pandemic. But clearly we see from somebody like you that everything happens for a reason, and we develop our superpowers through times of crisis, and we develop our strength. And clearly you've taken your deepest and darkest travails and just turned it into something that is much deeper than just playing on the court of basketball. And I appreciate it, and everybody that I've spoken to appreciates that. I guess to start wrapping things up, because I don't want to take much more of your time and so many others who have joined us live, where do you see yourself in a few years, and where would you love to go from here?
Obviously, I love coaching basketball. I just definitely want to continue coaching basketball. And, people always ask me, hey, do you want to go to a bigger school or do this? I'm like, right now, I'm at peace. I'm happy, being at YU as long as they accept me back. And everything is, I've been playing hide and go seek with my kids outside. And, hide and go seek with a person makes it back to base. I'm like, that was something I played when I was a kid. And so the fact that I'm sharing this with my kids right now, it's been awesome. So, I think that's one of the things that's kind of like surprised me. I'm like, because in all the years, I've never done that with them. We went outside and played, running around, but this doing so much outdoors with my kids has been a big thing that I've been, loving to do. And also being a homeschool parent. That's something right there.
Much easier said than done.
Yes,
Totally
so
understand.
a lot of respect to all the teachers out there that have to do that on a day-to-day basis, because it's different.
Yeah, no question
Yeah.
about it. And the truth is
Yeah.
that's the perfect way to end this meeting. And again, I want to
Yes.
thank you so much. Clearly, the impact that you're having on others outside
I think
is
there's a question
amazing.
at the
And
bottom or something.
what's that? Oh,
I don't know. I saw something at the bottom. I don't know. I think it was a question. I don't know.
oh, what outside is big enough for you to hide behind? There you go.
a good huge pine tree. That's the only thing that can help me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Again, you know what? And again, I want to end with the fact
Yeah.
that the impression and the impact that you're making on your kids. I mean, for them to be able to have somebody who just gets out there and dirty and is front and center and
Man.
present is going to be something that will never leave their minds and their memories. And it's the same thing for all the lives of the people that you've been impacting on and off the court. So with that, I want to thank you so much, Michael Sweetney. Thank you for all that you do.
Me.
Thank you for your time, and stay safe and continue, being you. Be
Thank
strong.
you. Stay safe, everybody. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you.
Okay.